Okay, so this past weekend it was UFC 271, the rematch between Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker. Pretty decent card overall. Not too much to shout about when it comes to fights. You know, there've definitely been some. I've seen worse cards, but I've also seen a lot better. Thus far this year, obviously, some of the UFC cards have been pretty lackluster. You look at the Hermansson Strickland fight last time, and that fight was although you look at even though I enjoyed the fight for it was Ngannou and Cyril Gane fight wasn't that entertaining. But yeah, this card was decent overall. Obviously, I gave a prediction or a preview last time round, and in that, obviously, I didn't go through the whole card when I did the video, but there were some good fights in the early prelims. You look at the one that I was kind of looking at was the Jeremiah Wells and the versus Blood Diamond, who obviously Izzy was bigging up. That is his teammate from City Kickboxing, and what happened to him pretty much happens to pretty much all strikers who come into the UFC without much, if any, experience on the ground. Got taken down the first, got beaten up for a bit, and then the guy took his back and he choked him out. So something that tends to happen with these City Kickboxing fights happened to happened to Hooker when he fought Makhachev, happened to Izzy when he fought Blachowicz. Didn't get choked out, obviously Izzy, but quite dominant on the ground, and it does make you think. Obviously, that is their weakness, seeing as they are actual. You know, you look at the name City Kickboxing, they are majority of them all kickboxer strikers. Volkanovski, to his credit, is a pretty solid grappler, but still not really. You feel like what would happen if Zabit fought Volkanovski? It would be interesting because that is their major weakness. And the thing with City Kickboxing is obviously out in New Zealand, and I think it's a similar issue in England where, you know, in America they go to school to wrestle, you know, they go to college and they wrestle there. You know, wrestling is almost a part of the culture in America. It's not a part of that in the UK, New Zealand, or most places, to be honest. I mean, even Brazil, you got Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighters like the likes of Damian Maia, Oliveira, who are good in the ground, but you do wonder if you can get a proper grappler who really can just shut them out. Like if a Khabib fought Oliveira, for example, I feel like it would be a shutout, to be honest. And I think it just shows that, you know, like they say, if you're the superior wrestler, you can dictate where the fight takes place. And I think we saw that once again with Blood Diamond, but he can come back. You know, it's only his first fight in the UFC. I'm sure Izzy hyped him up a lot, and I know it's just his teammate, but he's quite knowledgeable, Izzy, so I'd imagine he'll come back. But yeah, not a great fight for him though. That was on the early prelims. On the prelims, nothing again much to talk about. Carlos Ulberg won. The one I was watching was interested to see how Casey O'Neill did against the retiring Roxanne Modafferi. Pretty decent on Casey O'Neill. Again, nothing too much to shout about, but pretty solid win. She did what she needed to do, and that makes her now 9-0. And yeah, at flyweight, I don't think thus far she's anywhere near ready for Valentina yet, but she's alright. And you know, Orlovsky won as well. Again, nothing too much to shout about in the prelims. There were no fights that really stood out to me, to be honest. And if we get into the main card, I was really impressed with Bobby Green against Nasrat. He really showed. I mean, his boxing's always been pretty clean, Bobby Green, but here he really just turned it on. And I think probably the best I've seen him look for a while, to be fair. He's been someone who, again, 29-12-1 is his record. He's not somebody who was ever in the title picture, but he's shown that, you know, he's got a lot to offer still. And I love this. Him and I know it's not going to happen, but him versus like a Dustin or a Nate, because of how clean his boxing is, I think would be a great fight. And yeah, he really impressed me. He probably was my most impressive opponent of the night, to be honest with you. And yeah, so going for Bobby Green. After that, you had Renato Moicano versus Alexander Hernandez. And again, Hernandez, he had a lot of hype initially, but we've seen hype's one thing, but actually delivering on it is a whole other thing. And again, it was close at points, but then in the second round, again, once Renato got him down and got his back, it was done. And again, not the most exciting fight, but a pretty decent fight overall, to be fair. I do think that with Hernandez, he had so much. Well, he didn't have so much hype. He was hyped up quite a bit though, and he obviously got KO'd by Cowboy, lost to Drew Dober, lost to Thiago Moises. So there's a lot of losses now, and he can come back, like I said. But you look at someone like Kevin Lee, who I think was more talented than Alexander Hernandez. Sometimes your career can pass you by quite quickly, so I think he really needs to reset. But a good win for Moicano. I often fought with Moicano. I've always fought, and I mean this in the most respectful way because he's a good fighter, but he almost reminds me of a little bit of a B-Tech Charles Oliveira, and a guy who is pretty decent striker but very good in the ground. I don't think he's obviously as good in the ground as Oliveira is. He's not far, but not as good. And yeah, a good win for Moicano. And yeah, again, like some of the earlier fights were pretty decent. Then we got into the main fights of the card, the ones that I did do a preview on. So first, one up you had Jared Cannonier and you had Derek Brunson. A fight which I predicted, I felt that Cannonier would win. I think I predicted him for it to go all 3 rounds and then get the decision. But credit to him. I mean, he got taken down in the first round. He got dropped as well in the first round by Brunson, which surprised me because, Brunson's striking really isn't that fantastic. But again, the threat of the takedown can do that. And a beautiful shot, to be fair, from Brunson. And I thought there, maybe Kanye was going to struggle. But, man, in the second round, I don't know what happened. He caught Brunson a few times. And I don't know if Brunson was concussed the whole round. It was almost like he was drunk all around the octagon. He looked like he was just not with it for the whole round. And it was really weird. And then Kanye kind of just kept tagging him. And eventually he kind of just got through. You could see he wobbled him, and he really hurt him with the elbows, dropped him. And the sequence on the ground when he finished him with elbows were absolutely brutal. But a fantastic win for Kanye. For Brunson, I do feel for him a bit, because I did feel like the whole of the MMA community wanted him to lose almost, because obviously we want new matchups, and Izzy has already beaten him as well. Brunson is a good fighter, but he's not particularly, again, he's kind of just does what he has always done. Isn't like he's showing anything special, whereas I think Kanye is a bit more like, he's a very powerful guy, but he's also not that bad on the ground. So, and that was another thing, every time Brunson got him down, Kanye, to his credit, was getting right back up. So a good win, and I like the line of he turned blonde Brunson into blood Brunson. So him and Adesanya, I think, is the next fight. I don't see what more Kanye has to do. He would have got it if he beat Robert Whittaker. And I think in the middleweight division now, you need new matchups. So to me, yeah, that makes sense for that to be the next fight. So a great win from Kanye. And yeah, hopefully the title shot is next for him. He was calling Dana out for it, so we should get in there. And then we get into the co-main with Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa. Fight which I think I predicted Lewis to KO Tuivasa in the second. Reason being, I figured that as going to be a point where they exchange. I just figured Lewis's power would be the difference. And in the first round, there was a bit of a dirty wrestling match almost. Tuivasa was getting up against the fence, using knees and elbows, trying to almost make it a bit rough. And there was one moment where they did start swinging with each other, but neither of them got hurt, remarkably. But in the second round, that's where it opened up a lot more, and that is where Tuivasa kind of showed his more broader skill set on the feet. Lewis is good, but he doesn't really use elbows or kicks all that much. And Tuivasa was really beating up that leg of Lewis. And it's something that Cyril Gane did to him as well, so it's something I think he'll have to address. But yeah, Tuivasa just basically, in the clinch, really beat him up. He wobbled him, and he repeatedly smashed him with elbows to the point where Lewis just basically face planted and got put out cold. And again, it's a rough for Lewis. Again, his hometown, and he loses again. But for Tuivasa, it's a great win. And yeah, I don't think he's ready yet for Ngannou Tuivasa, but I do think stick him in there with maybe a Rosen strike after that, and then maybe after that, maybe a Cyril Gane. Because I think if he fought Cyril Gane now, it would be a one-sided beat. Now I think Gane would beat him quite comfortably. But a great performance from Tuivasa, a fan favourite, and I think he's definitely building up quite a fan base. He got the hype, I think, when he knocked out Greg Hardy, and he's continued that. So a good win from him. And yeah, I'd like to see him against Rosenstrike next. A really good performance, and should be interesting to see what he's done. Like I said, he's got a lot of hype behind him now. So I'm curious to see what Tai does next. But yes, so then we get to the main event. Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker. A fight that was probably one of the more perfect rematches I've seen in a while, because it almost felt like they were both champions. Whittaker showing that he was clearly, after Adesanya, the best guy in the division. Adesanya has shown that he was the guy. He defended his bout up until that point 3 times. That was obviously his 4th title defence. And yeah, Adesanya obviously got the win via decision over 5 rounds. I predicted Adesanya to knock him out in the 4th, because I figured Whittaker would get a bit desperate and lunging. And he did at times, but maybe nowhere near enough. And yeah, in the first round, so I think in the first round, Adesanya completely picked that Whittaker apart and made it look, I won't say easy, but he was beating the leg up. He dropped him in the first as well. And I said before, it reminded me of the fight a little bit of Usman and Covington too, where because he dropped him in the round, it almost felt like it gave him a bit of an edge in the fight. But Whittaker, to his credit, he looked like he was almost not confident in there. But after he got dropped, after that first round, he came back in the second and did well. He won the second, and I felt the third and the fourth were pretty close, to be honest. I gave Adesanya rounds 1, 3 and 4, I think it was, and Whittaker obviously the other 2. And yeah, I think Whittaker did well. Again, Adesanya kind of just picked him apart, arranged and kept the leg kicks, but Whittaker was doing some good stuff. He was outboxing him at points. He landed the left hook quite a bit, that left jab as well. He got a few takedowns. He got one where he almost got Adesanya's back, or he did get Adesanya's back, but he just wasn't able to get the choke. And Adesanya, every time he got taken down, got back up pretty quickly. Same thing I say about what I said in preview about, people said that because Blachowicz did it, maybe Whittaker could do the same, but like I said, Whittaker isn't Blachowicz. He's not a big light heavyweight who outweighs Adesanya by quite significantly. He's a guy who used to fight at welterweight, so the difference is big. And Adesanya, even though he's quite lean and quite not skinny, but he's quite has very sort of long limbs. He's a big guy, you know. He looked bigger this fight I think I've ever seen him, to be fair. So I think he's someone who fills out the weight quite well. But yeah, and I felt in some of the exchanges as well, you can kind of see that Whittaker was trying, but he wasn't really able to get Adesanya down at points. Adesanya's takedown defense against the cage especially is really good and has improved a lot. And again, the best chance I think you've got of taking down Adesanya is taking him down in the open. Blachowicz did that. He kind of lured him in with the strikes and then was able to sort of use his power and get him down. Whittaker had it at points but wasn't able to do it for long periods. So I mean, that was it. Fourth round, it was pretty much the same thing happened. Again, the rounds 3 and 4 were pretty similar. Round 5, Whittaker, you can see, was really trying to go for it. But again, I said this in the preview, the reach is Rob's biggest issue because he won't be able to close the range like he would be another guy. So he's kind of have to be perfect and do more. And again, I thought Whittaker fought well, but again, I kind of said this, I just don't think he did enough to take the belt from Adesanya. And I think that was the big issue. And, you know, when you look at the fight, Whittaker said that he thought he won. And in fairness, to people who say Whittaker won, I wouldn't completely disagree because it was a close fight. But to people who say it's a robbery, that Whittaker should have clearly won, you're just deluding yourself. That was nowhere near a robbery. It was a close fight. How can you be a close fight and it be called robbery? It contradicts the whole point of it being a close fight. So it wasn't. To me, it was a correct decision. I said 3-2 to Adesanya, but Whittaker did well. You could give some rounds to Whittaker, but I don't think it's a robbery, though. That is nowhere near a robbery. Same thing. I feel like this would be one of them, a little bit of Usman Covington, where people at the time maybe thought Covington might have won, but if you look at it really, he lost it, especially with the knockdown, and I think the same thing in this fight. Some people, and as well, are being quite critical of Adesanya, saying he fought safe and that he didn't take risks. Michael Chandler, which was weird, came out and said that, he was almost like a sparring session, he didn't really go for it enough. But again, guys who, you look at all the champions in the UFC at the moment, you can actually look at the 3 sort of kings, as we call them, Ngannou, Usman and Adesanya. Ngannou, his last fight, knocks people out usually, but he kind of had to dig deep and almost had to resort to grappling with Ngannou, which is something not a lot of people thought he could do, but he did it and he won the fight because of it. And then you look at someone like Usman. When he fought Masvidal the second time, he got absolutely slated for the toe stomps and everything. Now people are shut up about it because people realise what Usman is. But it's like people feel like you have to always be exciting. There's some fights which aren't going to be that exciting. Look at a lot of the great champions in UFC. Look at Anderson Silva. Look at GSP. They had boring fights. It happens. It's about the matchups. Like I always say, styles makes fights. It's the same with every single fighter, you know. You look at someone like a Tyson Fury when he fought Klitschko. He fought in a way which was really boring. Fought Wilder. Once he realised what he could do to Wilder, it was an exciting fight. So, again, Adesanya, maybe he looked boring in his fight, but maybe against Kanye, he may look more exciting because Kanye will go for it and will charge forward. So, it's just one of those, sometimes the styles just don't match up well, which is why an Adesanya and Darren Till fight will be absolutely horrible, to be honest, but I still love to see it. But good with Adesanya, that's his 4th title defence now. And yeah, he's cementing a good legacy in middleweight. Beat Whittaker twice, beat Costa, beat Romero, beat Vittori. And, you know, he's showing what he's about. You know, he's somebody who, I do feel like eventually like a specialist wrestler may expose sort of the ground game of Adesanya, but maybe like a Chimaev. But thus far, I think he's done more than enough. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future because he's, how old is Adesanya? He's not young, but he isn't stupidly old either, if I'm correct. He is 32, so he's pretty much in his prime now. To me, a fighter's prime pretty much ends about 35 in my opinion, so it will be interesting to see then how he does after that, because his style is as amazing as he is to watch. I feel he's quite one-dimensional, so I mean, just see how he does. Interested to see how he does against some of these other guys, as the middleweight division is very weak at the moment, to be honest. It's partly because Adesanya has cleared out a lot of them, but also because it's just not that much talent coming through, especially when you compare, you know, lightweight. You still got likes of Gaethje, Oliveira, Poirier. You still got, you know, the likes of Makhachev, Dariush. Featherweight, you got Volkanovski, the champ. Then you got Zabit, you got Yair, you got Max Holloway. You got the Korean Zombie. There's, again, still a lot of fighters in there. Arnold Allen, another one, and Dan Hooker now coming back down to that weight. And then you got welterweight. Usman's cleared out pretty much the whole division, but you still got fights with Luke. You got Chimaev who's in there, so there's still so much there. But for middleweight, there's pretty much nobody. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what happens leading forward. But a good with Adesanya, and like I said, a pretty solid card. Nothing to scream about. The next cards for the UFC are some fight nights. Obviously, you got it was Dos Anjos Physio, but I'm pretty sure they moved that to the UFC 272 card. So you got Johnny Walker and Jamal Hill, which should be an interesting fight. But then the next one after that is the one I'm interested in, and it's the Makhachev and Dariush fight, because to me that should be, whoever wins that should be the one who fights the winner of Gaethje and Oliveira. I think pretty clearly, to be honest. And yeah, so that will be an interesting one. And then after that, obviously, you've got the Masvidal Covington fight. So some good fights come in the UFC this year, and it's very early. But yeah, I feel like just how these cards have been a bit underwhelming. But again, it comes in swings and roundabouts. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not. It's just about sort of finding the right fights at the right time, I feel. And some of these pay-per-views, again, pretty solid start to the year. In my experience, these sort of cards get better towards the summertime. But we'll see some good ones on the horizon. My next video will be a preview of the Amir Khan and Kell Brook fight. So yeah, until next time.